New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Sir Michael Mangus.
Well, since you missed all that, you did hear Michael Mangus. And as we all know, our producer is the most important part of the show. But let us start over. So hello. We were muted and now we're not. Is that a metaphor?
We were muted? I didn't know that. Oh, man.
Hence the problem.
Hold it. You were not muted by master control.
Oh,
you are not muted by master control. So I just want to clear that up before we want to start the new year off right.
Okay. Well, let's start again.
And happy new year to Robyn and Gil and to Henry and to everyone else in that household. Happy new year.
Thank you. All right. So you did miss out on some of the banter. You did see us laughing. And we were muted. Anyway, so here we are, unmuted, live and unmuted. Maybe we should, that's Rockin the Love, unmuted.
Well, there you go. You go.
So thank you for coming. Welcome, Shay. Welcome, John. Welcome, everyone else out there listening. We'd love to hear from you in the chat. Let us know where you're listening from. And
we're just going to update that because I'm going to say, let us know where you're participating from. We love to have you as part of the show. That's what makes the show happen is, yes, it takes us, it takes our producer, but all of us would be very lonely and wouldn't have much to do if we weren't talking to you. So participate as you like, please, to make your comments and chat with us. And that's what makes Rockin the Love what it is, because we're all about relationship, and that relationship starts with each one of us.
Yes. And so we begin again. That is the title of our show today. And so we begin again.
That's true.
And look at us. We began again.
We began again. Yes, that was fairly fortuitous there.
Okay.
So we are grateful to be here as always. Perhaps you know us as a married couple because we've mentioned that on almost every show. But in addition to that, some folks, you know us from workshops, from classes, from meeting us in person, even possibly. Who knows? We've had multiple encounters and ways that we work with people. And so this is just another way that we get to connect with people out there in the world.
Yes.
So that's very exciting. I am also the spiritual director of a spiritual community, and Robyn does all kinds of other things that I can't explain because she's so good at them, but she'll tell you. And so, we're constantly encountering people and talking with people about their life, their relationships, their struggles, their triumphs, their all those things, right? And we actually really love that. And that's why we're here. And we're talking about, and so we begin again. It's that time of year. It's that new year time when everybody's talking about starting over.
Yep. And so we had a lot of conversation about this because Gil and I have just returned from a road trip. We went to California. We flew there and we drove back. And so we had a lot of time to talk about, the new year and things we wanted to do. And one of the things we wanted to do was, up level our game here at Rockin the Love. And so we talked about things we're not going to do anymore. We talked about things we're going to do a little bit more. We would love your input to see what it is you need, you want, and what would support you. So, as many of you know, especially I know Shay and John out there especially know that we lived apart for a long time. And so that was a big deal at the beginning of sharing what our week was like. But now our week is like a married couple. It's not exciting as it was because we're not doing different things. We know what each other's doing. So we're not going to do that as much. We're going to keep with the good news. And we're going to share some other news along the way. But we really love it if you were talking about having a segment with questions, And so we'd love it if you emailed your questions. I believe that we have an email address that our producer will put up there. And there you go. And email your questions, and we'll be posting on Facebook and things like that to get questions from people just that they'd like answered, they'd like to hear discussed. So if you have something that's on your heart, on your mind, answer it. You can be anonymous or unanonymous, whatever serves you. And we'll get to some of those in the future as well.
We'll reach into that big mail bag every week and pull out a question and have a little talk about it as part of the show. So you get to be a definite part of it, you get to direct part of the show. Woo!
All right. So
I'm excited.
Yeah, we're excited. And we have some other ideas and some guests and some different things that'll be happening, but we'll fill you in a little bit more on that down the road. So today, what's in our mind and our heart is as we return from California, we are just looking at the news around the fires and what's going on there. And just in case you aren't aware,
apparently they're having winds of up to 100 miles an hour, gusts of wind in Southern California, which is part of something known as the Santa Ana winds, and not uncommon this time of year. It is uncommon this time of year. Anyway, it's not uncommon there for this to happen. However, there are some major fires in some major metropolitan areas that are just completely out of control because there's no way to control them at this point.
Yeah, and power outages and lots of fear because this has never happened like this before. So
it's touted as at least the worst fire since 2011, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be bigger than that. So anyway,
so we're sending love and prayers out there as we move into this new year.
Having lived through multiple of those ourselves, whether in Southern or Northern California, we know that it can be a little scary, and also we just trust that everyone is where they need to be. So that's something that's on our minds today. Thank you for listening to that. Do you want to go into good news at this point?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then we do have some good news as well, and we really would like to share that with you. And I suppose I should start because it's a
new year.
You should start.
That's right. I'm starting because it's a new year. We don't rehearse this, folks. This is the real thing. Anyway, so my story is about Lowe's. What do you call it? What is Lowe's?
Home Improvement Center.
Home Improvement Center. Lowe's Home Improvement Center donated 100 tiny homes to Carolina families that are waiting for their house to be rebuilt after the floods there. And I just thought that it was so cool because the way it came about it was that each home has heat and all the necessities like kitchen, bathroom, and 2 full-size beds, and it would allow families to remain in their same neighborhoods while they're being rebuilt and while all that's happening. and so the story came about because the woman in charge of what do you call it? Low senior senior director of community type things. Um, Posed an idea, and she said, "This is a crazy idea," to one of her old friends. She said, "But he's a construction owner." He said she told him that she wanted to build 100 tiny homes, and he thought, "Oh my God, that's perfect. We've been looking for an opportunity to do something big." And she said, "Well, we have all the volunteers lined up and all the supplies lined up. We just don't know how to do it." And they went into action. And so they started with a prototype and they built it in his backyard. And they then moved to a warehouse in Charlotte and built about 16 more with over 400 volunteers who signed up to assemble the houses before the holidays. So some of the families were able to move in before the holidays. They've purchased 50 more, and they continue to be building homes. For
Wow, it's done with volunteer labor. That is very cool.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing Lowe's has something to do with donating a product for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's where it all came from.
And then the other guy, I guess, sounds like he's donating expertise to make it happen, make sure they have it right. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And, of course, all the recipients are overwhelmed and so grateful that they could have their Christmas in a home, and it, so it just means everything to them because they've lost everything. I mean, literally everything. So to have somewhere to feel like they have this new beginning from has been super important. And yeah, it says we've had volunteers from everything from framing crew, roofing crew, plumbers, electricians, to the actual builders in the markets, sending their project managers to their associates, which are the suppliers, sending their people to be a part of it. So they had an amazing amount of support.
That's great. Wow. They build them and roll them out. Yep. Not fancy, but surely wonderful if that's what you need.
Yeah.
Wow.
It makes me think, it says the effort is also supported by Habitat for Humanity, which makes me believe that somehow Jimmy Carter is working his magic from wherever he is. Anyway, but it's just great to see and know that people are, aware. And
somebody else in there that I recognized, Appalachian Service Project was mentioned.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. That's my news.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my news is a little less intense and yet just as intense, because it's about a police dog who's retired, and he'd been retired and he'd recently had surgery and he's recovering from surgery. And so his owners, which are actually retired police officers as well, I understand, were out with him for a walk, and walking through the local mountains, hills area, and the dog took them down into the brush off the pit trail way down somewhere. And when they got down there behind where the dog was, they found a hiker who was in the water, in the cold. And so they found this hiker who the authorities had just started looking for.
Oh my God.
And because they just realized he was missing, and they found him immediately, basically. And just because this dog was doing his job, even though it's not his job. And I think that fits so well with the last one, because reality is we show up and support the world with our talents and what we know wherever we can. And there's a dog doing the same thing as these various people who, are able to do everything from design and create to hammer a nail. but they're showing up and doing what they can to make it work. So there you go. It's a new beginning.
Well, and it also shows that, the dog is retired, but he does what he does.
Right.
Just like even when we stop doing something as a paid job or whatever, our gifts are still giving,
Right. We still have the gifts. We still have the abilities. We still have things to offer, no
Yeah.
matter where we are in our life pattern, our lifespan.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to remember, because some people get stuck on that. I don't have anything anymore. It's like, you do. It's just figuring out how you can offer it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we come back, we're going to talk about "And So We Begin Again," which is so appropriate from both of those stories, because they're all about beginning again. And so get your questions ready, get your thoughts ready, get ready to join us, get your coffee ready, whatever it is you need right now, get it ready. And we will be back after this message right here on New Thought Media Network.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
We are back. Oh, and you can see Frosty in the background.
Very excited.
A little bit bored with us. That is the dog we are fostering right now. And so if you know anyone that would like a dog, there's one right here.
Right here now.
She's a big bundle of love.
She is.
And energy. And I guess Henry's feeling slighted. He just jumped up on Gil's lap. So the family's all here. Anyway, we are here today talking about "And So We Begin Again." So we begin again. So the end of the year and New Year's parties and resolutions and letting go of the old. And I know many people don't do it then. I feel like in New Thought we've rebelled, knowing that in every moment we can begin again and let go of the old. However, it is a marker. It is a marker in time. And so I just thought I'd share a little bit about how we got there. And then we can talk about other stuff.
What we're doing now, how we're doing. Yeah. Okay.
How we're doing it now.
All right. So
the concept of New Year's as a time for new beginnings is rooted in history and a lot of tradition, and it symbolizes a fresh start and a chance to reflect on the past year and set goals for the future. We know that, right? This idea is celebrated across various cultures and has been for thousands of years. So New Year's resolutions began long ago, have a long history, and date back to ancient civilizations. To the Babylonians, I guess, were the first people. And that happened around 4,000 years ago. And they were the first to make New Year's resolutions.
okay.
I was just thinking, I don't know how they know that, but
They celebrated a 12-day festival.
yeah, called Akitu. During that time, they made promises to their gods to pay debts and return borrowed items.
Okay. A resolution, you're going to make things right.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
Then it went to the Romans,
Oh, the Romans took everything.
and their tradition continued in 46 BC with Julius Caesar established January 1st as the start of the new year. The month of January is named after Janus, and those are the two face gods who look both backwards and forwards,
Oh, wow.
symbolizing reflection and new beginnings. I know, that's kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
And so the Romans would offer sacrifices to Janus and make promises for the coming year.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. And then in the Middle Ages, in the medieval times, it became the medieval knights. They'd renew their vows of chivalry by placing their hands on a peacock in what was known as the peacock vow.
Okay. I've never seen a peacock I could place my hands on. They're always moving.
They are. But you can imagine that if they did, it was serious.
But the point there is they're renewing their vows. It's just starting over. It's recommitting. It's something.
Reconnecting.
Reconnecting
some
too.
level.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then colonial America, where the practice of making resolutions was adopted in the same way, but who used the new year as a time for introspection and self-improvements.
Which really, yeah, it's pretty much what they all were doing in their own ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And all the it's all evolved over time, but you get the through line. It's pretty similar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that said, in this land of no time and space, we know that we can always begin again. And there's something I think about New Year's that, like, if I feel like if I do it, then if I make the promise and the commitment and I follow through on it, somehow then I've changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I do it in March, it's just a thing. It's just a thing. It's a thing on the to-do list. It's like, yeah, I can't do that anymore. I got to change this. I've got to do it differently. That's just my feelings.
So it becomes a significance because there's the tradition behind it, because there's this sort of thing that we've grown up with, right?
Right.
That New Year's, and I think, New Year's, it's literally you change the date, you write down, you change, things have moved, and they've moved in the culture and in reality. And so I think that's part of it. So we get the chance. And I think really for me, the New Year's thing is more of a process of symbolizing and reminding me what's possible every other time it's time to do something new again. That if you look back at New Year's, you go, yeah, okay. So there's the opportunity to start again. This is just that big recognized marker.
Yeah. And I think also I was thinking as you were saying it, in the big metaphysical picture of everything, there's also energetically something behind this collective date where everybody, or a good majority of people, are doing the same thing, right?
Right.
So we all are going to do it, and it's, I mean, there's an energy force that feels supportive on some level.
Well, yeah, your friends, your neighbors, and you hope that some others that you don't know or whatever, but you say, you kind of cut people a break. Like maybe they've changed. Maybe it's shifted. Maybe I can interact with them in a new way because they're not going to react in the same way they used to. And so I think there's sort of like a collective hope too, in terms of the fact that we're all on the same journey.
Yeah.
Of renewing our commitment to humanity and life and all of that.
And there's a connection point, because people can say to you, hey, did you make New Year's? What's your New Year's resolution or whatever?
Right.
There's an understanding. You wouldn't go, what? You understand that even if you go, oh, I don't make them, that this is the time. So there's a connection that connects us all in this tradition.
Right. That's really true. So one of the things that comes up for me when I think about it is like, what does it mean to begin again or start again? Because like we said, we can do it at any time, but what's it really mean? One of the things I was thinking about was, we talk about rebooting our computer. And, when you start your computer, you're booting it up. And when you reboot, you restart. And that often just resets things and allows things to function more smoothly in a computer. And then there's the times when we actually go back and reset everything on our computer. You ever done that? Had to go back and reset it all and start with all those original settings. And when I think about this idea of a new beginning, it goes even a step beyond either one of those for me. What do you think about that? Because I think it goes to that point of that 0 point. It goes to that point where nothing is there that has to be followed. You actually have the opportunity to reevaluate everything. This dog is very insistent today. Very insistent.
So say more about that, though.
Well, what came to me as I was thinking about it was, Ernest Holmes said that we're not bound by principle, but by excuse me, let me get it right. We are bound by principle, not by precedent.
Right.
And so the idea that whatever's happened before somehow has to happen again, we're stuck to it, isn't true. What we're stuck to is the truth of what is. And what is that our life is constantly expanding and growing, and that we're constantly finding new ways to express. And so for me, that's the difference. So that 0 point is that point where there's no history to work with here. It's just, now what are we going to do right here, right now? And what choices can we make that will make our lives good, better, quality, our relationships better, whatever it is, not and shift how we relate in the world.
So how does one do that when you're in a situation? Say I'm in a situation. I'm in a relationship that I know I need to get out of.
Mm-hmm.
And so how does that apply to that?
Well, in some ways, it applies in the sense that you're not bound by precedent. So the fact that you're in a relationship, or you're in this relationship that you've been in for a season or a reason, does not mean that you can't restart and do something different, redirect your life in a new direction, choose a different way to be in relationship with the world that may or may not include this particular relationship. Because if we're bound by precedent, what we do is we go, well, I committed to this, so this is what I have to do, period. Whether or not there's very compelling reasons to readjust that thinking, or whether or not you're not really showing up in the way you can, and you're not really being who you need to be for the other person, or whatever the thing is.
Well, I think for me, in what we're talking about, one of the most important things is that really, and so we begin again, is really the mantra for life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because we're constantly beginning again,
Right.
even when we think we're stuck in a relationship.
Right. Even when we think we're stuck.
Yeah.
We're still restarting again. And unless we go back and pull that precedent into right now and force ourselves to somehow agree with it or move with it, then the reality is there's something else available. So yeah.
So John says, learn to love and detach.
And I think that's an interesting concept around that. I think that's one of the key things about precedent is we get attached to whatever the historical thing is, the thing we've always thought was right.
We get attached to our story.
We get attached. Thank you.
We get attached to our story of how it should be or what it's supposed to look like. God knows I've seen way too many Hallmark stories. You can never measure up.
Yeah, right.
You just can't. You can't.
Right.
But you can try.
Okay, I'll try.
I'm just
Darn
kidding. I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean? We've seen and lived and fantasized and dreamt and all of those things. And it's like, so learn to love and detach.
Well, I think that, that's a couple different ways. One is to truly love and release all of the expectations, release all of the precedent, the things that have gone before, perhaps, that are influencing how you're looking at it now, etc. And sometimes it means learn to love without being attached to the relationship, whatever the relationship is, detaching from that.
Well, yeah, my question becomes learn to love who? Because I in that I hear, we could love them and set them free, love myself and know the highest and best for me, love God and know that it's all taken care of. So, what, yeah, it just brings questions for me.
Well, what if we learn to love and detach from ourselves? What would that be like? And I say that jokingly, but I think at some level we have to detach from
the story
and the expectations and the things that we were told as a kid and the disappointments we had as a kid that we think mean something. I mean, that wouldn't disappoint us at all right now, but as a kid they disappointed us and somehow we hold that disappointment, that kind of thing. That's the stuff we detach from. We let it go. We move into just a space of embracing things through love, whether it's our experience, it's our actions, it's our whatever it is.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, learn to detach from ourselves, for me, just what happens when you say that from our story, I mean, is from my story or from that small, still voice within, not the good one. I know there's no good and bad, but the other one that says, really? Are you sure? You sure you can do that? Or that keeps me playing small,
That reminds me I didn't succeed at it last time, or reminds me that I've been told I can't succeed at it, or the one that tells me I should have done it before, it's too late. Whatever that is, whatever that voice is, right. And so do we allow that precedent of that voice to determine whether or not we take advantage of the moment, because in the moment we can choose to begin again.
Yeah. And I think it's so important because I know so many of the listeners we've talked about on other shows have, I mean, I'm sure we all have, but have walked through the fire, so to speak, regaining their own confidence and overcoming hardships and, you know, abuse and molestation and all different kinds of horrible things that, you know, have gotten them to this point.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. So John says, for me, seeing the truth of my own behavior is the key to being free of any relationship that is not healthy.
So, John, thank you for that. I think that's really powerful. Seeing the truth of our own behavior, our own thoughts, our own story, our own whatever it is, really, I think is the key to this idea of and so we begin again. Because unless we can come face to face with whatever those are, we can't begin again because we're still going to be walking in the same story. We're still going to be reacting, acting, whatever it is from the same story. And if we can get in touch and acknowledge the truth, whether it to us feels good or doesn't, but if we can acknowledge the truth, then we can then either let it go or redirect it or whatever it is we need to do.
And that's so important. That's so important. And because that's what we do, that we take it into our next relationships, you know, and we keep the pattern going.
Well, and you say next relationships like they're successive, but, you know, if we have such and such issue at work, we're often bringing it home to someone that we may live with. If we, you know, and the same basic issue was probably showing up in multiple different relationships in our lives, whether it's with our family, whether it's with people we work with, we work for, we supervise, whatever it is. The same basic issue is going to show up. It's going to be slightly unique for the different situations, but it's going to impact our relationships, you know, until we can acknowledge it and go, oh, that's why, because I'm coming from a place of fear, or I feel inadequate, so I try to make other people inadequate. You know, I feel guilty about thus and so. So when other people do that, it really ticks me off.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, what's going on is in my head is like the patterns and finding the balance in it all. Because we can't let go. I mean, we can let go of our story on some level, but we can't let go of the memory of the story. You know what I mean? So somehow it lives, and you can make it live as a tool to guide you. And, you know, and I know Shay talks about this a lot because she's been through a lot of things that have changed her life. And so she's got a pattern of knowing, of being clear on what's next based on what's happened before. I mean, which we all do, but I'm just saying, I think some of us use it in different ways.
And I think we probably use it at different seasons of our life in different ways. But yes. Did you want to click on that one? So John says, go to the pattern store and find new loving patterns. I remember going to the pattern store. Did you go to the pattern store? Pick out the patterns for the things that Mom was going to make? That was my household. I don't know.
I remember doing it for home economics class.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting concept, because what it makes me think of is, of course, whatever it was that I wanted to do generally didn't have a pattern. And so I'd be like, well, can't we just make one? I mean, it was just a bunch of paper stuck together. It's like, can't we just draw one and then cut it out and hook it together? You know, so like, yeah, go to the pattern store and pick out new patterns. that's just, yeah, that wouldn't that be nice? I mean, because that's so much, it's so much easier said than done in some ways, right?
Well, and the reality is that when we're talking about patterns of behavior and patterns of how we react to the world and all of that, the reality is there's infinite patterns. We're not restricted by what Joanne has. We can pick from anything, and the one that we sense is our pattern is already there and ready for us,
Right.
and waiting for us. But until we acknowledge that we need to, be on the lookout for that new pattern, we keep functioning as if the old pattern is going to work. We keep sewing together the thing and not understanding why when we put it on, the seams rip out because it's 3 sizes too small or whatever.
Well, look at you,
See?
Mr. Pattern Maker.
That's right. I consulted with the seamstress before the show.
There you go. No, but I love that concept, John. I mean, I love it. I'm not sure how easy it is, but I love it. I love it. And I think, it's kind of like talking about the traditions in the beginning and where they came from. It's like that evolving of your pattern, And again, it brings up for me, the 4 agreements, Don Miguel Luis. And my favorite agreement is not to take anything personally. And I feel the same with patterns in some way, because sometimes you get stuck in the pattern of like, why aren't I enough, or why aren't I lovable, or why isn't this happening? And if we can go to that place of knowing that it's not personal and being able to make a new choice and do it anyway, kind of thing.
Well, we make whatever it is, whatever that thought is, we make it personal as if we really are that. I think that's kind of the thing. When someone says, you're an idiot, we go, oh, I must be. Somehow they said it. Or whatever we say to ourselves similarly. And if we can go, no, it's something to do with the feeling and the reaction in this moment to something that isn't us. It's something else that's going on. It's something going on in the other person. It's something going on within ourselves that we haven't resolved yet. It's not really a story. It's not really the truth about who we really are. It's just the truth about who we're thinking we are.
Right.
Wow, that sounded like a bunch of jargon, didn't it? Yeah. But not meant to be, folks. If that's what it sounded like to you, I apologize. I was trying to be explanatory, but I'm not sure it was.
Well, I think that the thing about New Thought and these kind of things is it all sounds so simple.
Right.
Well, just do this. Change your thinking. Change your life.
So good.
And on the one hand, there is simplicity in there, and on the other hand, awareness is key. And awareness is where this all begins, because to change any pattern, we have to be aware of it, right?
Right.
And acknowledge it and watch it come up. And if you have the pattern in one place that you see it come up, I can bet you that it comes up in other places in other ways, and you just haven't acknowledged it as such, whether it's a love relationship, a work relationship, whatever. So it's really becoming aware becomes kind of like being an explorer. It's not like a one and done kind of thing. We have to keep listening and watching and I'm not going to lie. It's exhausting. It's exhausting uncovering, the stuff that's been put there.
So what the visual I had there was the paleontologists with the toothbrush in this giant hole trying to get, the stuff off of what turns out to be the side of a house.
Right.
But they're brushing off very carefully. And it takes effort. It takes effort and energy to uncover what's there, and it's so much easier to just cover it over and ignore it.
But the other thing about that analogy is, because this makes me marvel at them, is like, then they're like, look, we found a tooth. How on earth would you know that was a tooth? I mean, like, that's something I would have walked over.
It's a bump in the dirt.
Right? It's a rock that's calcified, you know. And so it's those details though, and that fine tuning, you know, that yeah.
Well, and that's part of the being willing to look, you know, and not just walking over stuff.
Yeah.
You know, literally.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I saw. I saw them like chiseling away at, you know, to find it.
Yeah.
And Shay says, wow, that's exactly what it's like. Excavation.
Yep. And that's what we're doing all the time. And if we're in this place of it's a beginning again, we're always allowing whatever that stuff is we find to help us create new decisions, to move forward. Yeah, I had a thought that eludes me now. So please go on, my love.
Well, I don't have anything to say. I feel pretty complete, actually. I was just thinking about, I mean, I really think that the goal of this show is to really know that in every moment we can begin again, you know, and that we will. And probably, you know, part of that, when I used to do New Year's resolutions, you know, I think what would happen is the feeling bad when you didn't complete them, or so let go of that, forgive yourself, and just be able to really move in a way that just allows you to, you know, reevaluate and to praise yourself. You know, I like to praise for all kinds of things, you know, and Gil knows, like, you know, even when I'm on the freeway and, you know, where he gets all pissed off at people or
Do not
upset that, you know, why did they do that to him? Why did they come that close? Why did they cut him off? I go to the place of, wow, look at me. What a great driver I am that I could avoid that accident by swerving over here or changing lanes or whatever. So I like to find the positive. And I think that if you don't do your resolution, or if you don't follow through on something, you know, reward yourself, forgive yourself, let it go, and reward yourself so that, you know, wow, okay, this is deeper than I thought. This is something I'm aware of, and that you're aware, and why you know, and just dive deeper into that and be grateful that you have that thought process and that ability, and you know you're working towards the change.
Well, I think that whole excavation thing made me think of also, when you're talking about that we have to be ready to begin again and readjust, because, you know, you're toothbrushing off the tooth that you found, and 3 days later, as you're still toothbrushing away, you discover that it was the tip of the rhino horn. You know, I mean, it's
right.
It's not what you thought it was, and it's okay to have had a thought about it and attempted to work with it in that way, but then discovering, oh, that's not really what it is.
Yeah.
You know, but if we don't ever look at it, we do what Robyn said, we walk over it. We just ignore it completely, and then it doesn't inform us at all.
Yeah, and we think that a new year is a new opportunity. I mean, it is a new opportunity, but it's a new opportunity and a chance to get it right. And there is no right. I mean, it's always a chance to get it right and to move towards where you want to be or what your goal is. John says self-compassion. Yeah, self-compassion is huge on the list, and I would say even for 2025, as we walk into this new year, it is a year of unknown. Now, granted, every year before this has been a year of unknown as well, but everyone is labeling this as, well, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to take place with the new regime. We don't know what's going to happen with global warming. We don't know. We don't know. We don't know. Okay, we've never known. And can we sit in that and anchor what we do know?
And I think the thing is too that we probably know a lot more than we think. And I think sometimes it's literally listening to that inner voice and what's going on. And whether it's a voice somewhere in the world or it's the voice literally from within, that there are things indicating what is afoot, what's happening. And I don't know, the reason that came to me was in reading about Jimmy Carter putting the solar panels up 4 generations ago on the White House, and him talking before anybody talked about climate change or any of that. He was talking about carbon pollution and how it was going. We had to stop it at 2 degrees, et cetera, of warming, which is what the Paris Accord said 30 years later.
Right.
I mean, so there's this knowingness in our lives and in our world about what is and what we're called to be about. And sometimes it takes a while for it to catch on, and sometimes it takes a while for us to catch on.
But that's why we have a village, and we're so glad we have you and that you're out there. And I just want to thank you all for being there for our first show for 2025. And we have successfully put one dog to sleep, as you can see in the background. And I want to leave you with this quote as we go, because I think this is where we're trying to live from this year. And I'm going to take out the word try, because try is a lie. Oh, to be, I am a workshop facilitator, so I hear myself telling the room what this, and then the other comes out of my mouth. But I'm forgiven and I have self-love. Okay, so this is where we're living into this year, and it is: don't wait for extraordinary opportunities, create them. So we invite you all to play along with us this year and to create amazing, extraordinary opportunities and results, because that's who you've come to be in the world.
So send us questions or things that we can discuss, because we want to discuss your things. And Shay, we're glad you love the dogs. The dogs are very loving today. Very loving.
Yeah. So send us questions. And again, you can send them to Robyn and Gil at rockinthelove.com.
All right.
Robyn with a Y, Gil with 1 L. We'll forgive you if you do it wrong, but we won't get your question. So send them in, and we will see you next week. We want to thank our producer, Michael Mangus, because he's the best.
He is
and
the best.
Of course, New Thought Media Network. And you hear us joke about Michael's bonus check and all of that. And really, the truth is, this is a labor of love for all of us. And so we are sending a lot of love out. If you have love that you can send in to support, I know we have some subscribe donors online. Thank you very much. And we welcome that, because it takes a lot to keep this going, and we all want to do big things. And that's what New Thought Media is all about. So do what you can. And if you can, come back and see us next week.
All right.
We'll see you right here next week.
Rock
Bye.
the love.
Rock the love, everybody. Happy New Year.